If you've ever found yourself feeling stuck, held back by patterns from your past, or unsure of how to truly break free from the wounds that have defined your life, then you're in the right place. Today, we're embarking on a journey of deep emotional healing, addressing one of the most profound, yet often unspoken, struggles that many people face: the mother wound. You might be asking yourself, what exactly is the mother wound, and why does it matter? Well, this emotional wound is something that many of us carry, whether we consciously realize it or not. It's the invisible scar that shapes our relationships, self-worth, and emotional patterns, originating from our early childhood experiences with our mothers or primary caretakers. These experiences, whether they were rooted in neglect, emotional unavailability, criticism, or even overprotection, can define how we perceive ourselves, how we connect with others, and ultimately, how we love ourselves. This video will guide you through the process of recognizing and healing this wound, something that will not only change your personal relationships, but also transform the way you view yourself and your potential. By addressing the deep-rooted issues that stem from our relationship with our mothers, we are able to rewrite the emotional scripts that have been unconsciously controlling us for years. We'll explore the different types of mother wounds, how they manifest in our daily lives, and most importantly, how to begin the healing process. And here's the best part. You won't just learn about these wounds, you'll be given actionable steps to heal them. Whether it's through self-reflection, writing a letter to your mother, engaging in meditation, or simply learning to set healthier boundaries, you will discover how to reclaim your emotional power and step into the fullness of who you were always meant to be. Before we jump into all of this life-changing content, I have a small request from you. If you find the information in this video helpful or inspiring, please give it a thumbs up, share it with your friends and family, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. By doing this, you're helping us reach more people who can benefit from this healing journey. If you're really enjoying the content and want to support the channel, consider donating a super thanks. Your generosity allows us to continue providing high-quality content and deepening the conversation around emotional healing and personal growth. Now, let's dive into how we can begin healing the mother wound and take the first steps toward emotional freedom. Stay tuned, and I promise you won't want to miss a minute of this transformative journey. The concept of the mother wound is a psychological term that encapsulates the emotional pain and scars inflicted by a mother's behavior during childhood. These wounds, whether caused by neglect, emotional abuse, or a lack of nurturing, deeply impact an individual's psyche and shape how they interact with the world as adults. The mother wound is not always obvious. In fact, it often hides in plain sight, presenting itself as chronic insecurity, lack of trust, or difficulty in forming healthy relationships. Recognizing this wound and healing it is crucial for personal development, as it allows individuals to break free from the chains of the past and lead lives that are not defined by unresolved emotional pain. The mother figure holds a paramount role in a child's emotional development. She is the first and most significant attachment figure in a child's life, shaping the way they perceive the world, form relationships, and develop their sense of self. When a mother is emotionally unavailable, overly critical, neglectful, or even abusive, the child learns to internalize this emotional deprivation, which impacts their self-worth and emotional stability. These early experiences lay the foundation for future emotional struggles that often go unrecognized. For instance, a person who grew up with a mother who was emotionally distant may find themselves struggling with low self-esteem and a constant need for external validation as an adult. Healing the mother wound is essential for breaking the cycle of emotional pain that can persist throughout one's life. This wound, if left unaddressed, can lead to issues in relationships, self-esteem, and overall mental health. The importance of identifying the mother wound lies in its ability to free individuals from the unconscious patterns that dictate their behavior and decisions. When a person recognizes that their struggles with love, trust, or self-worth stem from early childhood wounds, they can begin to take steps toward healing, rather than continuing to react to life from a place of pain. The impact of the mother wound is long-lasting and extends into every facet of an individual's life, often without them even realizing it. In relationships, for example, people who have not healed their mother wounds may struggle with trust. They may be overly protective, avoidant, or have a tendency to attract emotionally unavailable partners. They might even sabotage their relationships because they're unconsciously replaying the dynamics of their early years. This can happen in romantic relationships, friendships, and even professional relationships. The fear of abandonment or the belief that they are unworthy of love often manifests in ways that cause deep emotional distress. Take, for instance, someone who grew up with a mother who was overly critical. Throughout childhood, they may have been constantly told that they were not good enough, that they needed to strive harder to be loved. As an adult, they may become perfectionists, always striving for unattainable standards in their work or relationships, believing that their worth is tied to their achievements. This sense of inadequacy and constant self-criticism is rooted in the mother wound. Moreover, the mother wound is not confined to individuals with overtly abusive or neglectful mothers. Even a mother who believes she is providing the best for her child may inadvertently create wounds by being overly protective or controlling. A mother who demands perfection or whose love is conditional teaches her child that they must perform to be loved. This often leads to a person growing up feeling that love is not given freely but must be earned. For example, a child whose mother only shows affection when they achieve something may grow up believing that their worth is contingent upon their ability to meet external expectations, leading to deep-rooted insecurities and a fear of failure. The long-term effects of the mother wound on personal identity are profound. Children who grow up with emotional wounds related to their mothers often struggle to develop a healthy sense of self. The mother wound can distort the way a person perceives themselves and their place in the world. For instance, someone with an emotionally unavailable mother might internalize the belief that they are unworthy of love or care, which can manifest as emotional numbness or a deep sense of emptiness in adulthood. In the workplace, they might have difficulty asserting themselves, constantly second-guessing their worth or abilities. In social settings, they might struggle with intimacy, either becoming overly dependent on others or emotionally distant, fearing vulnerability. Understanding the mother wound is key to breaking free from these patterns and reclaiming one's true self. This is not about blaming the mother or seeking an apology, but rather acknowledging the emotional damage that was done and taking responsibility for one's healing. By recognizing the mother wound, individuals can begin to separate their own identity from the painful experiences of the past and take steps to rebuild a healthier, more integrated sense of self. This process is often challenging because it involves confronting deep-seated beliefs and behaviors that have been ingrained since childhood. However, it is essential for personal growth and emotional freedom. The first step in healing the mother wound is to identify it. This involves recognizing the ways in which the wound has shaped one's emotional responses and behavior. It can be helpful to reflect on childhood experiences and identify patterns that have persisted into adulthood. For example, if someone consistently attracts emotionally unavailable partners, it may be a sign that they have not healed the wound of emotional neglect from their mother. Once the wound is identified, individuals can begin to work through the emotional pain associated with it. Therapeutic practices such as journaling, guided meditation, and inner child work can help individuals process the pain of the mother wound. These practices allow people to reconnect with their inner child, providing a space to grieve the emotional deprivation they experienced and offer themselves the care and nurturing that was lacking in childhood. Writing letters to one's mother, even if they're never sent, is a powerful way to release pent-up emotions and begin the process of forgiveness. These exercises can help individuals reclaim their emotional power and start to rewrite their stories in a way that is empowering. One of the most important aspects of healing the mother wound is to cultivate self-compassion. Often, Those with a mother wound are their own harshest critics, having internalized the negative messages they received as children. Learning to be kind to oneself and recognize one's inherent worth is an essential part of the healing process. This is not about excusing harmful behavior, but about releasing the hold that the mother wound has on one's sense of self. It is about learning to love and care for oneself, even in the absence of external validation. The impact of the mother wound on personal identity is profound, but it is not a life sentence. By acknowledging and addressing these wounds, individuals can begin to heal and move forward in a way that is not defined by the past. The journey of healing the mother wound is an ongoing process, one that requires patience, self-compassion, and a commitment to personal growth. It is not easy, but it is worth it. As individuals heal, they can create healthier relationships, develop a more authentic sense of self, and live more fulfilling lives, free from the emotional baggage of the past. In conclusion, healing the mother wound is an essential step toward personal growth and emotional freedom. It is not a quick or easy process, but it is one that can lead to profound transformation. By recognizing the impact of the mother wound and taking responsibility for healing it, individuals can break free from the emotional patterns that have held them back and create lives that are not defined by their past. The journey of healing may be challenging, but is also a deeply empowering and rewarding one. Through self-awareness, self-compassion, and therapeutic practices, individuals can heal their mother wounds and reclaim their emotional power. The concept of the mother wound is often difficult to confront because it deals with the deep emotional scars left by the first significant attachment in one's life, the relationship with the mother. In understanding this wound, it's essential to recognize that it manifests in two primary forms: the active wound and the subtle wound. Both types of wounds leave lasting marks on the individual, but they do so in vastly different ways. While the active wound is more easily recognized due to its direct and overt nature, the subtle wound is more insidious, often disguising itself in behaviors that may seem harmless or even loving, yet are deeply damaging. By understanding these two types of wounds, individuals can better recognize the emotional patterns they carry with them into adulthood, patterns that often go unnoticed yet significantly shape their relationships and self-worth. Active wounds are the more obvious of the two types of wounds. These are the painful, often traumatic experiences that individuals endure during childhood. They include emotional, physical, or verbal abuse, neglect, abandonment, or direct violence. Active wounds typically leave visible marks, both physically and psychologically. The effects of these wounds can often be seen in the person's adult life through struggles with trust, feelings of inadequacy, and challenges in forming healthy emotional connections. For instance, a person who was physically abused as a child may grow up feeling unsafe in relationships, unable to trust others, and prone to anxiety or anger. This is because the active wound has a direct link to trauma, and the individual carries the emotional and psychological consequences of that trauma throughout their life. The active wound can also manifest in cases of neglect or abandonment, where the child's emotional needs are consistently unmet. For example, a child whose mother was absent or emotionally unavailable might grow up feeling unloved or undeserving of love, leading to deep-seated feelings of insecurity. These feelings often turn into patterns of behavior in adulthood, such as people-pleasing, difficulty setting boundaries, or an overwhelming fear of being rejected or abandoned. The active wound, in many ways, lays the foundation for a lifetime of emotional pain if not addressed, as the individual carries with them the belief that they are not worthy of love or care. Subtle wounds, on the other hand, are more difficult to identify, yet they're no less damaging. These wounds stem from experiences where the mother's love and attention were inconsistent, overly controlling, or conditional rather than outright abusive. A subtle wound can occur when a mother is overly protective, controlling, or critical, often leading the child to feel that they must meet unattainable standards to gain love and approval. This type of wound is particularly insidious because it doesn't leave obvious marks, but instead manifests in ways that are difficult to recognize, even for the person experiencing them. For example, a mother who is overprotective may constantly hover over her child, preventing them from taking risks or making mistakes. This can lead to a child who feels stifled and unable to develop a sense of independence. As an adult, this child might struggle with making decisions on their own, constantly seeking validation or approval from others before taking any action. The underlying belief in this case is that they are not capable of navigating life independently, a belief instilled by a mother who didn't allow them the space to do so. Similarly, a mother who is overly critical or demanding can cause a child to internalize the belief that love is only given when they are perfect. This can lead to perfectionism in adulthood, where the individual feels that nothing they do is ever good enough, and they constantly strive to meet unrealistic standards. This kind of subtle wound often manifests as an overwhelming fear of failure or rejection. A person with this wound might be extremely hard on themselves, constantly comparing themselves to others, and feeling unworthy of success or happiness unless they achieve perfection. Another subtle wound arises when a mother, instead of playing the role of a nurturer, turns her child into a confidant or best friend. In this dynamic, the parent-child relationship becomes blurred, and the child is forced to take on emotional responsibilities that they are not equipped to handle. For example, a mother who shares her personal problems, fears, or insecurities with her child might inadvertently place a burden on the child to act as a caregiver. The child may grow up feeling responsible for others' emotions, neglecting their own needs in the process. As an adult, they may struggle with setting healthy emotional boundaries, constantly putting others before themselves, and feeling that their own feelings are secondary or unimportant. One of the key differences between the active and subtle wounds lies in their recognition. Active wounds are often easier to identify because they are directly tied to trauma that leaves visible or emotionally intense marks. For instance, an adult who was physically abused as a child might have clear emotional scars such as depression, anger issues, or difficulty trusting others. These are overt signs of the active wound and are usually linked to clear traumatic experiences. On the other hand, subtle wounds often go unnoticed because they do not leave obvious scars. In many cases, individuals with subtle wounds may feel that their experiences were not as traumatic as those with active wounds, and they may even minimize their own pain. This often leads to the invalidation of their own feelings, as they may convince themselves that their issues are not serious enough to address. For example, someone who grew up with a mother who was critical or emotionally distant may struggle to understand why they feel insecure or unworthy in adulthood, because they were never subjected to outright abuse or neglect. However, the subtle wounds created by this type of maternal relationship are just as damaging and long-lasting as active wounds. The emotional patterns created by subtle wounds are often harder to break because they are deeply woven into the fabric of the individual's self-image. Someone with a subtle mother wound may not even recognize the source of their emotional struggles. For instance, they may wonder why they feel a sense of inadequacy, even though they had a mother who was present and seemingly caring. This lack of recognition can make the healing process more challenging, as the individual may not understand that their feelings of unworthiness, perfectionism, or insecurity stem from the emotional patterns created by their mother's behavior. The effects of both active and subtle wounds often persist into adulthood, affecting every aspect of the individual's life. Relationships, career choices, and personal identity are all shaped by the way these wounds were formed and how they were internalized. For example, someone who experienced active abuse may struggle with deep-seated trust issues, while someone with a subtle wound may find themselves constantly seeking external validation, unable to trust their own instincts. Both types of wounds lead to emotional patterns that feel entrenched and difficult to change, but recognizing them is the first step in breaking the cycle. Ultimately, understanding the differences between active and subtle wounds is essential for anyone seeking to heal their mother wound. It is important to remember that both types of wounds are valid and deserving of healing, regardless of whether they are visible or not. The first step in healing is to acknowledge the pain, to identify the patterns that have been formed, and to begin the process of reparenting oneself. By recognizing the wounds, whether they are active or subtle, individuals can begin to free themselves from the emotional scars that have shaped their lives and start the journey of healing and transformation. Carl Jung's theory of archetypes plays a profound role in understanding the deep psychological effects that the mother figure has on the development of an individual's psyche. The archetype of the mother is one of the most significant and foundational symbols in Jungian psychology, representing a force that profoundly shapes the way we view ourselves, others, and the world around us. This archetype is not just a literal representation of a mother figure, but rather a symbol embedded deep within the unconscious mind, influencing our perceptions, relationships, and behaviors throughout our lives. Jung's concept of archetypes refers to universal, archaic patterns and images that reside in the collective unconscious. These patterns are shared by all humans across time and culture and manifest in our thoughts, feelings, and behaviors. The mother archetype, according to Jung, is one of the primary and most important archetypes, and it represents both nurturing and destructive aspects of the maternal relationship. It forms the basis for the individual's first attachment and, as a result, profoundly impacts their emotional development. The mother's image in the unconscious mind becomes a template against which all future relationships, especially those involving attachment, love, and trust, are measured. The image of the mother in the unconscious mind is not limited to the biological mother. It can also include all figures who assume a nurturing or caretaking role. In many ways, the mother archetype is symbolic of the nurturing, protective, and loving qualities that the child needs to feel safe and secure in the world. At the same time, the mother archetype can also embody the negative qualities of the maternal figure, the controlling, neglectful, or emotionally unavailable aspects that lead to wounds that shape an individual's behavior in adulthood. One way the mother archetype influences us is by providing the first model of attachment and emotional connection. As infants, we rely on our mothers to fulfill our basic needs for love, care, and protection. When a mother archetype is positively represented, the child feels secure, loved, and accepted, which leads to a stable foundation for forming healthy relationships later in life. However, when the mother archetype is distorted or absent due to neglect, emotional unavailability, or abuse, the child may develop deep emotional scars that affect their ability to trust, form healthy bonds, and navigate the complexities of relationships in adulthood. Jung's exploration of the shadow side of the mother archetype is crucial in understanding how the unconscious image of the mother can shape destructive patterns in an individual's life. The shadow, in Jungian psychology, represents the unconscious and often repressed aspects of the self. It is the part of the psyche that contains those traits and experiences that are unacceptable or undesirable and thus hidden from the conscious mind. When it comes to the mother archetype, the shadow aspect can manifest in ways that undermine self-worth and emotional stability. For example, if a mother was emotionally cold, critical, or neglectful, the shadow side of the mother archetype would be internalized by the child. As an adult, the individual may struggle with feelings of inadequacy, fear of abandonment, or difficulty accepting love. They might project the negative maternal qualities onto others, believing that love is conditional or that they are not worthy of affection. This shadow aspect of the mother archetype often creates an unconscious template that governs future relationships, causing individuals to recreate patterns of emotional neglect, abandonment, or fear. Jung also describes how the mother archetype can take on both the nurturing light side and the more destructive dark side. The light side of the mother archetype represents qualities like care, compassion, and unconditional love, which are crucial for emotional development and personal growth. On the other hand, the dark side represents control, smothering, guilt, and abandonment, leading to emotional instability, a lack of independence, and a distorted sense of self-worth. A mother who is overly protective, controlling, or manipulative may create a toxic environment where the child feels loved but never truly free to express their authentic self. The child may internalize the belief that they must be a certain way to earn love, or that love can only be given when they meet the mother's expectations. The mother archetype not only impacts the child's immediate emotional development, but also influences how that child sees the world and interacts with others as they grow older. A child raised with a healthy maternal figure is likely to develop a positive self-image and secure attachment, which fosters the ability to trust others and form fulfilling relationships in adulthood. In contrast, a child who experiences an unhealthy or absent maternal relationship may carry the emotional scars of that experience into adulthood, struggling with issues such as insecurity, trust issues, and emotional dependence. In adult relationships, the lingering influence of the mother archetype can be seen in how people approach love, attachment, and intimacy. An individual who is emotionally neglected by their mother may have difficulty accepting love and may feel unworthy of affection, often pushing others away. Alternatively, someone who experienced an overbearing or controlling mother may struggle with boundaries, finding it hard to assert themselves in relationships or fearing rejection if they do not meet their partner's expectations. Jung's concept of individuation provides a pathway for healing the wounds caused by the mother archetype. Individuation is the process of becoming one's true self, integrating the conscious and unconscious aspects of the psyche. Through individuation, an individual learns to recognize and integrate the shadow aspects of the mother archetype, transforming them into sources of strength rather than sources of pain. By doing so, they can break free from the patterns of the past and build healthier, more authentic relationships. In practical terms, healing the influence of the mother archetype involves acknowledging the emotional scars left by the maternal relationship and consciously choosing to heal and reshape one's sense of self. This may include therapeutic techniques, such as reparenting, where individuals learn to provide themselves with the nurturing and care they may not have received as children. It also involves learning to set healthy boundaries, accept love without conditions, and stop the cycle of seeking external validation. Understanding the mother archetype in this way allows individuals to reclaim their personal power, break free from toxic patterns, and create a life that is no longer defined by the limitations imposed by the past. An essential aspect of healing the mother wound through the archetype is recognizing the unconscious patterns that govern relationships. This process involves becoming aware of the ways in which the mother archetype has shaped how one gives and receives love. For example, someone who was raised by a critical mother may be overly self-critical and have a constant need for validation. By becoming aware of these patterns, they can begin to challenge them and replace them with healthier ways of interacting with others. Jung's idea of the mother archetype is powerful because it speaks to the universal nature of our early experiences with maternal figures and how these experiences shape our identities and relationships. It reminds us that the mother archetype is not simply about the literal mother, but represents a fundamental part of our emotional and psychological makeup. Whether positive or negative, the mother's influence lingers within us, shaping how we relate to ourselves and others. By understanding this, we can begin to heal the wounds of the past and transform the way we approach love, connection, and self-worth. In the end, the journey toward healing the mother wound is deeply personal. For some, it may involve confronting painful memories and experiences from childhood. For others, it may mean reshaping the internalized image of the mother and learning to nurture themselves in ways that were not possible before. Whatever the process looks like, it is rooted in the understanding that the mother archetype, with its light and dark sides, profoundly shapes the emotional landscape of our lives. Healing comes when we stop living in reaction to the shadow of the mother archetype and begin to create a new relationship with ourselves, one that is grounded in self-compassion, authenticity, and emotional freedom. The mother wound, though often invisible, manifests in subtle and sometimes overt ways throughout an individual's life. It is the emotional scar left by a mother figure who, for various reasons, was unable to provide the nurturing, affection, or stability that the child needed. These wounds do not just fade away with time. Rather, they linger, influencing behavior, emotions, and relationships long into adulthood. People carrying the mother wound often experience deep-seated issues in their daily lives, particularly in forming and maintaining healthy relationships, trusting others, and establishing strong boundaries. Understanding how the mother wound shows up in our lives is crucial to healing it and breaking free from the patterns it creates. One of the most common and pervasive effects of the mother wound is difficulty trusting others. Trust is the cornerstone of all relationships, whether with friends, family, romantic partners, or even colleagues. If a child grows up with a mother who is emotionally unavailable, neglectful, or overly critical, it is no surprise that they may struggle to trust people in their adult lives. When trust is broken in early childhood, the person may internalize the belief that people cannot be relied upon or that love and care come with conditions. This lack of trust doesn't just apply to others, it can extend to themselves. Individuals may find it difficult to trust their own judgment or instincts, second-guessing themselves at every turn. For example, someone who grew up with a mother who frequently withdrew affection or affection was given only when they met certain conditions might become an adult who constantly fears abandonment. In relationships, this fear can manifest as jealousy, anxiety, or an overwhelming need for reassurance. The fundamental belief is that no one will truly stay or care for them unless they are perfect or meet specific expectations. The lack of trust can also appear in other forms. For instance, an individual may have a fear of vulnerability or avoid close connections altogether, fearing that they will eventually be let down. This may look like someone who pushes others away, even though they deeply crave connection. They might build emotional walls, appearing distant or aloof, not because they don't want relationships, but because the idea of being hurt or abandoned is too much to bear. Even in friendships, someone with a mother wound may have difficulty allowing people to get close, often believing that no one truly has their best interests at heart. This constant vigilance against betrayal stems from the invisible scars left by inconsistent maternal love, leaving the person always on guard. Alongside difficulty trusting others, the mother wound often manifests as a profound sense of inadequacy or a feeling of not being good enough. People with this wound frequently feel like they have to prove themselves to others in order to be worthy of love or attention. The message they internalized as children, often unspoken but felt deeply, was that they could not simply be loved for who they are. Instead, they had to meet certain standards or expectations to receive affection, validation, or care. This can lead to a lifetime of feeling like something is always missing or that they're somehow inherently flawed. This belief may not always be obvious, but manifests in a constant internal dialogue that says, "I am not enough," or "I must do more to be loved." For example, someone who had a critical or emotionally distant mother may find themselves striving for perfection in their adult life, whether it's in their career, relationships, or personal achievements. They may feel as if nothing they do is ever enough, always measuring their worth based on external validation rather than self-acceptance. This internalized belief can lead to a pattern of self-doubt, anxiety, and depression, as the individual is never able to shake the feeling that they are not living up to their own or others' expectations. In relationships, this manifests as a fear of being judged or rejected, often leading to a tendency to either overcompensate or withdraw entirely. People with this wound might find themselves constantly looking for validation from their partners, friends, or family. But it never feels like enough because the validation they truly crave, unconditional love, is something they never received. Another common manifestation of the mother wound is difficulty setting boundaries. Boundaries are essential for maintaining healthy relationships, and they allow individuals to protect their emotional and physical well-being. However, people who carry the mother wound often struggle to establish and enforce boundaries, especially with people who may remind them of their mothers. This is particularly true for individuals who grew up with a mother who was overbearing, controlling, or constantly violated their personal space or autonomy. In childhood, these individuals were often taught that their needs and desires were secondary to their mother's needs, or that asserting themselves would lead to rejection or punishment. As a result, they may find it difficult to assert themselves in adulthood, either by being overly accommodating, avoiding conflict, or allowing others to take advantage of them. For instance, someone who had a mother who was excessively controlling may grow up believing that their own desires or needs are unimportant. As an adult, they might struggle to say no to others, even when it compromises their own well-being. They might feel guilty for setting boundaries or fear that saying no will result in rejection or abandonment. This can lead to a cycle of overgiving, people-pleasing, and emotional burnout. For example, a person might agree to take on extra work, attend events they don't want to go to, or even tolerate toxic relationships because they fear that saying no will cause conflict or lead to being unloved. The inability to set boundaries, particularly in romantic relationships, can lead to feelings of being overwhelmed and unappreciated. The impact of the mother wound on boundaries can also be seen in how individuals handle conflict. Growing up with a mother who is overly critical or dismissive may have taught a child that their feelings were not valid or that conflict was something to be avoided at all costs. As an adult, they may struggle to address issues directly, either by withdrawing completely or by suppressing their own feelings to keep the peace. The fear of confrontation often arises from the fear that expressing one's true feelings will lead to rejection, criticism, or emotional distance. These issues with trust, self-worth, and boundaries are not only present in romantic or familial relationships, but also in friendships and professional settings. The mother wound influences how people relate to others across all areas of their life, often leading to recurring patterns of behavior that seem difficult to break. For example, someone with a mother wound may repeatedly find themselves in one-sided relationships where they are always the giver, never the receiver. In the workplace, they might struggle with asserting their needs or advocating for themselves, fearing they will be rejected or seen as unworthy of respect. This lack of healthy boundaries can lead to burnout, resentment, and a sense of emotional emptiness, as the individual constantly sacrifices their own needs for the sake of others. The most challenging aspect of the mother wound is that its effects are often subtle and long-lasting. It can take years, sometimes decades, for someone to recognize how deeply the wound has affected their life. The lack of trust, the feeling of inadequacy, and the difficulty with boundaries are not always immediately recognized as stemming from the mother wound. Instead, these feelings are often mistaken for personal flaws or failures. Many people with a mother wound internalize the belief that they are broken or inherently flawed, not realizing that these issues are the result of deep emotional scars that were formed in childhood. One of the most important steps in healing the mother wound is recognizing how it has affected one's life. Understanding the impact that the wound has had on relationships, self-esteem, and boundaries is the first step in breaking free from its grip. This involves acknowledging the pain and taking responsibility for healing it. It's essential to understand that the issues with trust, self-worth, and boundaries are not a reflection of personal inadequacies, but are instead the result of emotional neglect, abuse, or conditional love during childhood. Healing the mother wound requires a conscious effort to reframe the way one views themselves and their relationships. It involves learning to trust others, setting healthy boundaries, and developing a sense of self-worth that is not dependent on external validation. It's about unlearning the unhealthy patterns that were formed in childhood and replacing them with behaviors that promote emotional well-being and healthy relationships. The process of healing the mother wound is not easy, and it takes time and effort. It requires individuals to confront difficult emotions, challenge old beliefs, and develop new ways of interacting with the world. However, by recognizing the impact of the mother wound and taking steps to heal it, individuals can break free from the emotional patterns that have shaped their lives and create healthier, more fulfilling relationships with themselves and others. Through therapy, self-reflection, and support, the cycle of the mother wound can be broken, allowing individuals to finally live a life that is not defined by the pain of the past. Healing the mother wound is a deeply transformative process that requires conscious effort and self-compassion. The pain left by a mother figure who is emotionally unavailable, critical, neglectful, or abusive can affect an individual throughout their life. However, understanding and addressing the wound is the first step toward healing. This process involves not only identifying and understanding the root cause of the wound, but also actively changing the internalized image of the mother and rebuilding a healthy sense of self. Here, we will explore various approaches to healing the mother wound, focusing on practical exercises such as identifying and changing the mental image of the mother, writing letters, meditation, visualization, and establishing healthy boundaries. The first step in healing the mother wound is identifying and changing the image of the mother in the subconscious mind. This mental image of the mother is not necessarily a reflection of the real mother, but rather a symbolic representation formed by the child's experiences. According to Carl Jung's theories of archetypes, these symbolic images are stored in the unconscious and shape how individuals interact with the world and themselves. The image of the mother, when distorted or damaged, can contribute to deep emotional scars. For example, a person who experienced an emotionally unavailable mother may internalize the image of a cold and distant figure, which can manifest as a fear of intimacy and trust in relationships later in life. To begin the process of healing, it is important to consciously examine this internalized image of the mother. Reflecting on one's relationship with the mother and how it may have shaped feelings of inadequacy, insecurity, or unworthiness is a powerful starting point. Recognizing the ways in which the mother's behaviors were internalized helps individuals become aware of the emotional patterns they carry into adulthood. This awareness is crucial because it allows individuals to recognize that the negative behaviors and feelings they associate with their mothers are not a reflection of who they are, but rather a result of their experiences. Once this internalized image is identified, the next step is to begin transforming it. This involves consciously changing the negative perceptions and replacing them with a healthier, more nurturing representation of the mother. A technique that has proven to be effective in this process is visualization. Visualization allows individuals to imagine their inner mother as a caring, supportive figure who offers unconditional love and acceptance. This new image can be invoked whenever feelings of inadequacy or self-doubt arise, providing comfort and emotional security. In addition to visualization, writing a letter to one's mother is a powerful exercise that can help release pent-up emotions and facilitate healing. Writing a letter allows individuals to express feelings they may not have been able to communicate before, whether due to fear, guilt, or repression. This exercise is not about sending the letter to the mother, but rather using it as a therapeutic tool to release emotions and gain closure. The letter can be filled with everything that was left unsaid, including anger, sadness, disappointment, and longing. Writing in this way allows for emotional catharsis and creates an opportunity for individuals to process and let go of negative feelings. For example, someone who experienced a critical and controlling mother might write a letter expressing the hurt they felt growing up, how the constant criticism made them feel unworthy, and how they longed for unconditional love. By writing these feelings down, They can begin to understand the depth of the emotional pain caused by their mother's behavior and release the pent-up emotions that have been carried for years. The process of writing the letter is liberating, as it gives the individual the space to validate their own experiences and acknowledge the harm that was done, without necessarily seeking validation or an apology from the mother. Another important technique for healing the mother wound is meditation and positive visualization. Meditation allows individuals to connect with their inner selves, promote self-awareness, and process deep-seated emotions. When healing the mother wound, meditation can be used to revisit painful memories and transform them into opportunities for growth. For instance, someone with a history of emotional neglect might use meditation to envision themselves as a child in need of care and compassion. Through meditation, they can imagine offering themselves the nurturing and love they never received, allowing the inner child to heal and receive the comfort they were denied in childhood. In addition to meditation, positive visualization can help replace negative maternal images with more supportive and loving ones. By repeatedly visualizing the mother as a loving, protective, and nurturing figure, individuals can retrain their subconscious mind to associate maternal energy with safety and acceptance rather than rejection or criticism. These exercises can be incredibly effective in shifting long-held beliefs about the mother and allowing the individual to feel more empowered and secure in their own emotional world. Rebuilding healthy boundaries and practicing self-love are also essential components of healing the mother wound. Individuals with a mother wound often struggle with boundaries because they were either not allowed to have them as children or had their boundaries consistently violated by their mother. Learning to establish boundaries is crucial for regaining a sense of control and self-worth. This process begins by acknowledging that setting boundaries is an act of self-care and self-respect, not selfishness or defiance. For example, someone who had a controlling mother might struggle to say no in relationships, fearing that doing so will lead to rejection or disapproval. Through boundary-setting exercises, they can practice asserting their needs and desires without guilt or fear of abandonment. One way to practice setting boundaries is to identify situations in which boundaries were previously violated and create a plan for how to respond differently. For example, if an individual's mother used to invade their privacy or overstep emotional boundaries, they might practice saying, "I need some time to myself," or "I'm not comfortable discussing that." Learning to assert boundaries in a calm and confident manner helps individuals reclaim their autonomy and stop the cycle of emotional overreach that often stems from the mother wound. Another aspect of healing the mother wound is the practice of self-love. Many individuals with a mother wound struggle with self-worth because they were taught to believe that their value depended on external validation or meeting certain conditions. To heal, they must learn to love and care for themselves unconditionally. This involves practicing self-compassion, acknowledging their own needs, and accepting themselves as they are, flaws and all. For example, someone who was raised with a mother who constantly demanded perfection might learn to accept their mistakes and embrace their imperfections. This practice of self-love is crucial because it allows individuals to break free from the cycle of seeking validation from others and, instead, learn to validate themselves. One technique to foster self-love is the practice of affirmations. By repeating positive affirmations such as, "I am worthy of love," "I am enough," or "I deserve to be cared for," individuals can begin to change the internal narrative that has been shaped by the mother wound. These affirmations help individuals reconnect with their inherent worth and reinforce the belief that they're deserving of love, care, and respect just as they are. Another self-love practice involves self-care routines that prioritize emotional well-being. This could include taking time for relaxation, pursuing hobbies or activities that bring joy, and surrounding oneself with positive, supportive people. By creating space for self-care and self-nurturing, individuals begin to honor their own needs and develop a deeper sense of self-respect. In conclusion, Healing the mother wound is a multifaceted process that involves recognizing and transforming the internalized image of the mother, practicing self-compassion, and learning to set healthy boundaries. Techniques such as writing letters, meditation, visualization, and self-love exercises are powerful tools for freeing oneself from the emotional patterns that have been carried from childhood. By taking these steps, individuals can break the cycle of emotional pain and create a healthier, more authentic relationship with themselves and others. Healing is a journey, but it is one that leads to greater emotional freedom and the opportunity to live a life unburdened by the wounds of the past. Healing the mother wound is an essential and transformative journey that touches every aspect of our emotional and psychological well-being. This journey isn't one that can be completed in a short time, nor is it without its challenges. However, it is one that offers a profound sense of freedom and liberation once the individual has started to recognize the roots of their emotional struggles and actively works toward resolving them. Throughout the process of healing, we have explored the different manifestations of the mother wound, such as the difficulty in trusting others, feelings of inadequacy, and struggles with setting boundaries. We've learned that these emotional scars often originate in childhood, where the mother figure failed to provide the nurturing and security necessary for healthy emotional development, whether through emotional neglect, overprotection, criticism, or abandonment. These experiences leave an indelible mark that can influence how we perceive ourselves and others throughout our adult lives. The core of healing involves understanding and recognizing how these wounds affect our relationships, self-esteem, and overall mental health. We have also examined the powerful techniques for addressing the mother wound, including writing letters to the mother figure, visualizing and reprogramming the image of the mother in our subconscious, and learning to establish healthy emotional boundaries. These practical approaches are designed to help individuals reclaim their sense of self-worth, break free from the cycles of emotional dysfunction, and rebuild their emotional resilience. For those who have struggled with the lasting effects of a mother wound, it is crucial to understand that the healing process is not just about recognizing the pain of the past, but also about taking concrete steps to change the way we relate to ourselves and the world. The emotional scars left by an unhealthy maternal relationship are not easy to erase, but the journey to healing offers a chance to transform them into opportunities for growth and self-discovery. It's important to recognize that healing the mother wound is a deeply personal experience, and there is no one-size-fits-all solution. Some people may find relief through therapy or counseling, while others may benefit from meditation, journaling, or visualization exercises. The key is to take action and commit to the process of healing, no matter how long it may take. The first step is to become aware of the emotional patterns that the mother wound has created in your life. Recognizing that the behaviors and feelings you experience are not inherently your fault, but are the result of deeply ingrained childhood experiences is the beginning of the healing process. This awareness allows you to understand that the fear, insecurity, or emotional dependence you might feel as an adult is not a reflection of your true self, but is instead an echo of the past. It is essential to approach this awareness with compassion for yourself, rather than judgment or shame. After all, these wounds were not created by your own actions, they were the result of the environment you grew up in. Once you've gained this awareness, it is time to take action. A critical step in this process is to begin reprogramming the mental and emotional images of the mother that are embedded in your subconscious. These images are not always accurate representations of the actual mother figure, but rather symbolic representations that were shaped by childhood experiences. In many cases, these internalized images can be distorted, representing not the loving, nurturing qualities a mother should provide, but rather the negative aspects of the relationship, such as criticism, neglect, or control. Changing these internalized images is crucial for healing, as it allows you to replace harmful beliefs with healthier, more nurturing ones. One of the most effective tools for shifting these internalized images is writing a letter to your mother. This exercise may seem simple, but its impact can be profound. Writing a letter allows you to express emotions that may have been suppressed for years, whether it is anger, sadness, or a longing for the love and acceptance you never received. The letter does not have to be perfect or follow any specific format. It is simply a way to let your feelings out and acknowledge the pain that has been carried for so long. You do not have to send a letter to your mother. It is for you to help you process your emotions and begin the healing process. After writing the letter, it can be helpful to reflect on what you wrote, as it can often reveal underlying patterns and unresolved feelings that may not have been consciously acknowledged before. For many, this act of self-expression can lead to emotional release and a sense of closure. Another powerful technique for healing the mother wound is meditation and visualization. These practices allow you to reconnect with your inner self and access deeper emotional layers that may have been hidden for years. Visualization, in particular, can be effective in reprogramming the internalized image of the mother. You can visualize the mother as a nurturing, compassionate, and loving figure who provides you with the care and support you need. This can be a very healing process, as it allows you to replace the negative, limiting beliefs formed in childhood with a more positive and healthy perspective. For example, imagine your inner mother holding you in a warm embrace, offering unconditional love and acceptance. By practicing this visualization regularly, you can begin to internalize this new image, which will positively influence how you feel about yourself and your ability to form healthy, loving relationships. In addition to visualization, practicing self-love is a critical part of healing the mother wound. People who carry the mother wound often struggle with self-worth because they were conditioned to believe that love and affection had to be earned or that they were not inherently worthy of care. Learning to love and care for yourself is a crucial step in breaking the cycle of emotional neglect. Practicing self-love involves acknowledging your worth, setting healthy boundaries, and taking care of your emotional needs. This might look like engaging in activities that nurture your well-being, such as exercising, meditating, or spending time with people who uplift and support you. It also involves forgiving yourself for past mistakes and recognizing that you are deserving of love, regardless of your imperfections. A key part of self-love is setting healthy boundaries with others, especially those who remind you of the negative maternal relationship. Boundaries are essential for maintaining emotional and mental health, and they allow you to protect yourself from being taken advantage of or emotionally drained by others. Setting boundaries is often difficult for individuals who grew up without healthy boundaries, but it is an essential skill for healing. This may involve learning to say no without guilt, prioritizing your own needs, and being able to distance yourself from toxic or draining relationships. As you practice setting boundaries, you will begin to reclaim your sense of autonomy and emotional independence. Finally, healing the mother wound requires patience and persistence. It is important to remember that this process is not linear, and there will be setbacks along the way. Some days, you may feel as though you are making progress, while other days may feel like you are back where you started. This is normal. Healing is a journey, and it takes time. The key is to continue to show up for yourself, to be patient, and to trust the process. With each step, you are rebuilding your sense of self, rediscovering your worth, and breaking free from the emotional patterns that have defined your relationships and self-image for so long. As you begin your healing journey, I challenge you to take the first step today. Write that letter to your mother. Allow yourself to express the emotions you have been carrying for so long. Let go of the past and make space for healing and transformation. It is time to stop waiting for someone else to validate your worth and begin validating yourself. By taking this step, you are reclaiming your power, embracing your worth, and starting the process of healing the mother wound. In addition to writing the letter, practice the techniques of visualization, meditation, and self-love. As you work through these exercises, remember that healing is not a destination, but a lifelong journey. Every step you take toward healing is a step toward reclaiming the authentic, whole version of yourself. The pain of the past does not have to define your future. You have the power to heal, to transform, and to create a life filled with love, joy, and self-compassion. Wow, what a journey we've just taken. You've just uncovered the powerful truths about the mother wound, what it is, how it affects your life, and how you can begin healing it right now. It's truly amazing how understanding these emotional scars can help us break free from the invisible chains that have held us back for so long. But this is just the beginning. The process of healing is ongoing, and now that you have the tools to begin, it's time to take action. I hope that the techniques we discussed today, such as writing a letter to your mother, transforming the subconscious image of your mother, and practicing self-love and healthy boundaries, will help you make significant strides on your healing journey. Remember, healing takes time. It's not an instant fix, but a gradual process. Every step you take, no matter how small, is a victory, and it's a step closer to emotional freedom and self-empowerment. If you found this video helpful, please show your support by hitting that like button, sharing this content with someone who could benefit from it, and subscribing to our channel for more insights and tools to heal and grow. Your support helps us keep bringing you more valuable content like this. And if you're truly moved by what you've learned today and want to contribute directly to the channel, you can send a super thanks. Your donations are greatly appreciated and help us continue to create meaningful and impactful videos that provide real solutions for emotional healing and personal growth. We've covered a lot today, but there's so much more to uncover about the healing process, and I want to be there for you every step of the way. So make sure you hit the notification bell so you never miss another video. We're here to explore, heal, and grow together. Thank you for spending this time with me. Take a moment to reflect on the healing work you're about to embark on. You are more than enough, and you deserve all the love and compassion the world has to offer. I look forward to seeing you in the next video, where we'll continue on this incredible journey of healing and transformation. Until then, remember your past doesn't define you. You have the power to change your story. Take that first step today.